One, two, one, two. Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello, everyone. Can I request that we please settle down? The president will be walking in shortly. So if we can settle down, and when the president walks in, I'll ask you to please stand, and we will kick-start the program. please, can we all stand as we welcome the President? Thank you very much. We will please request you to keep standing as the South African Youth Choir leads us into the program with the national anthem and the African Union anthem.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all the scars. Run away, they say no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, the carcass, here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me, oh, oh, oh,
and we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. From now on, these eyes will not be blind and blind. From now on, what's waiting till tomorrow starts tonight. Let this drama simply start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on. From now on, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again. And we will come back home, and we will come back home, home again.
All right, let's give it up for the South African Youth Choir. Honorable President, I thought we were going to see you make some moves there. We saw how you danced so well to Tyler's song after she won the Grammy. So I thought you were going to teach us some moves there. Dumelang, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning at the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium. My name is Clement Manyatela. I am a television and radio broadcast journalist, and I'm so honored this morning to be the MC for this gathering. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Honorable President first, President Cyril Ramaphosa. We've got some special guests here as well with us that I would like to take some time to acknowledge. We have Billy Rangasamy, who's the Minister of Land and Housing in the Republic of the Seychelles. We've got Winston Chitando, the Minister of Local Government and Public Works in the Republic of Zimbabwe. Libone Dipema, who's the Minister of Home Affairs in the Kingdom of Lesotho. Chief Luhlaza Ndwandwe, who is the Minister of Works and Transport in Eswatini. Pascal Onde Onze Oyama, the Vice Ministro de Obra Publicas in Equatorial Guinea. Sikou Kroma, the Minister of Posts and Telecommunication, is also joining us. We also have our own ministers in this place. Minister Zikalala is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, joining us as well this morning. Mamuluku Kubai, the Minister of Human Settlement. We have the Minister of Tourism, Patricia DeLille, Senzo Mkhunu, who's the Minister of Water and Sanitation. We are also joined by the Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga. We also have other deputy ministers that are gracing us here with their presence. Deputy Minister Mapulane, who is the Deputy Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. Deputy Minister Magau, who is the Deputy Minister of Transport. We've got the Premier of Gauteng, who's also been participating at the symposium, Panyaza Lusufi, here with us. The Premier of the Free State, Mxolisi Dukwana. We've got the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal as well, Nomusa Dube Ngube. The other Deputy Minister we have in the presidency is Deputy Minister Morolong. We've got Deputy Minister Swart as well, who is the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. So ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. This Sustainable Infrastructure Symposium has brought together critical role players in the infrastructure investment space because we need everyone to be galvanized around the key goal of investing in public infrastructure projects for the growth of this country, but also for the benefit of the people in this country as well. Because all of us know how important infrastructure investment is, how a critical driver it is to the future growth of our economy. Even government's economic recovery plan that the president has announced is very much infrastructure-led. And government is doing its part. It has committed funds towards a pipeline of projects, whether you talk about accommodation, student accommodation, social housing, telecommunications, water and sanitation, you name it. But the private sector needs to come in as well with investments. And that is why we have this platform, this symposium, to explore partnership opportunities between the public and private sectors, look at investment opportunities in infrastructure, talk about the regulatory and policy reforms that are needed, the innovative funding models, etc., etc. So we will be announcing this morning, before we wrap up the morning program, 12 infrastructure priorities for project preparation. That's for the financial year 2024-2025. That's a pipeline of our projects that will receive project preparation. They're going to receive extensive support as well from Infrastructure South Africa. We will also launch this morning the construction book. That's a collection of all the infrastructure projects that are going into procurement in this financial year as well. So without further ado, please help me welcome Tertius Simmers, who's the MEC for Infrastructure in the Western Cape, to give us a welcoming address.
Thank you very much, Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa, our ministers, deputy ministers from across the continent, but also from South Africa, premiers present, fellow MECs, senior government officials, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. As we gather here today, amidst the challenges and uncertainties facing our global economy, I am reminded of the words of Anne Bradstreet, who aptly expressed that without adversity, prosperity would not be so welcome. Indeed, it is through confronting adversity that we appreciate the value of progress and growth. We have seen the real impact of global warming with a rapid rise in disasters due to inclement weather, more so in the Western Cape in 2023. Therefore, as much as we have to utilize smart building technologies, we also have to prioritize revenue generation initiatives by the government. Through this, we will be able to increase our own revenue asset reserve funding, enabling us to mitigate, in times of need, for the restoration and rehabilitation of this infrastructure. I therefore extend my sincere gratitude to each of you for selecting the Western Cape and our vibrant city as the stage for launching and unveiling the infrastructure book. In addition to our robust transportation networks, I'm delighted to share that the Western Cape stands as Africa's premier digital hub, boasting a thriving tech ecosystem centered in Cape Town and in Stellenbosch. Moreover, Cape Town is swiftly solidifying its position as the cloud computing hub of Africa, with several cutting-edge data centers currently under construction in our city and province. These developments underscore the increasing attractiveness of our province as an investment destination, promising both economic expansion, but above all, much-needed job creation. Therefore, as the host province, it is my duty to shed light on our Western Cape Infrastructure Framework 2050, intricately woven with our provincial growth for jobs strategy. And our province has an ambitious vision, creating an economy by 2035 with a robust value of an estimated 1 trillion rand, fostering sustainable growth ranging between 4 and 6% annually for our province. Ambitious indeed, but do believe accomplishable. Central to the strategy is our commitment to infrastructure investment in the Western Cape, the bedrock of our province's economic advancement. One key aspect emphasized in our Infrastructure Framework 2050 draft is the acceleration of private-public partnerships. These partnerships serve as catalysts for innovation, efficiency, and effectiveness in delivering essential infrastructure projects in our province. By leveraging the expertise and resources of both public and private sectors, we can expedite the implementation of critical initiatives, driving economic development, but above all, enhancing the quality of life for all our citizens in the Western Cape. Allow me to outline the key pillars of our agenda as the Western Cape, in support of the national objective, I should emphasize. In terms of energy infrastructure, we are steadfast in our resolve to reduce dependency on Eskom by between 1,800 to 5,700 megawatts by 2035, paving the way for substantial investment estimated to be between 21.6 billion rand and 68.4 billion rand in our province. In terms of water infrastructure, we do recognize the vital role water plays in our economy and daily lives. We are therefore dedicated to optimizing and augmenting our water supply, integrating water resource management, and enhancing adaptive capacities as well. By doubling the availability of water for secondary and tertiary economic sectors by 2035, alongside bolstering allocations for agriculture, we aim to fortify our resilience, competitiveness, and quality of life for all our residents. Thirdly, transport infrastructure. Key projects in this area include the Malmesbury bypass with a capital investment of 500 million rand to further enhance our N7 and West Coast corridor. This project aligns with our recently completed Saldanha IDZ access road, further emancipating the Saldanha harbour for development and economic activities into the future. Informed by the Western Cape Infrastructure Framework, the Department of Infrastructure is poised to embark on a comprehensive agenda aimed at driving sustainable development and economic growth throughout our province. And over the next 3 to 5 years, our Department of Infrastructure in the Western Cape will continue institutionalizing the principles of the Living Cape, a human settlements framework. This framework seeks to improve human settlements integration and delivery while also addressing governance hindrances over time. It acknowledges that the provision of human settlements cannot reside with a single department or with government alone. It relies for its success on a multi-sectoral approach that leverages the collective commitment and support of a range of stakeholders. These principles will be realized by adopting an area-based planning approach. This market-based, holistic approach to integrate human settlement opportunities responds to the unique qualities and yes, complexities of local areas by appropriately scaled development that are spatially aligned to other infrastructure investments within our province. So we seek to prioritize affordable housing programs. We focus on densification of integrated settlements. We strengthen its capability to bring large infrastructure projects to market, such as our Conradi Better Living Model Exemplar, which is our policy brought to life as the Western Cape Government, our Vredenburg Urban Revitalization Project, and very soon our Founders Garden site and Leeuloop in the CBD, whilst at the same time contributing to growth for jobs through these projects. And we will continue to invest in the catalytic projects identified within our designated 19 priority housing development areas. But as stated, our provincial road network is of crucial importance for our economic success into the future. And therefore, we will continue to focus our attention on addressing the backlog in maintenance risks, which the floods of last year has made a bit worse, but also preventing a further deterioration of this critical infrastructure component of our province. And we will do so by ensuring that all of our routes maintain our good and excellent standards which we have set for ourselves to ensure safe vehicular traffic occurs on our entire network across our province. But partnerships is key, and therefore we continue to work with municipalities to develop a pipeline of infrastructure projects, but we will set the standards for their delivery and the timeframes as well. Through our eMerge initiative, our department will strive to drive efficiencies in the infrastructure space through the utilization of technology in the form of building information modeling, or BIM, 3D scanning, which we are already doing, deploying drones to conduct conditional assessments, which we are already doing, and sharing information platforms with provincial departments, other national relevant departments, but all stakeholders who wish access to these platforms. But economic emancipation also sees us focusing on contractor development programs, where we seek to assist emerging contractors to become more compliant, but above all competitive in the construction industry through training and development opportunities across our province. Our Provincial Department of Infrastructure will also explore mechanisms to obtain better appreciation of the socio-economic challenges and opportunities in locations where infrastructure is delivered. And through our Infrastructure Department's mandate, it will be placing maximizing job creation at its forefront where we do implement core projects across our province. Our department is also in the process of developing a climate-sensitive infrastructure base through our incorporation of carbon reduction strategies in our design, delivery, management, and operation of infrastructure. At the moment, as a provincial government, through this department, we are already rethinking and restructuring our relationships between the public sector, citizens, and businesses to create growth that is equitably balanced and resilient, with new capabilities and opportunities across the economic ecosystem, again in the interest of all of our citizens in the province. And we will seek to manage our infrastructure spending through strategic quitting strategies that will decommission infrastructure which no longer is adding value for our citizens. And we are in the process of embarking on our full digitalization technologies in our department, also helping sister departments in our province to ensure new forms of business processes are incorporated in our role as government, again, in the interest of our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, Honourable President, in conclusion, I do extend a warm welcome to all present on behalf of our Premier and our Cabinet in the Western Cape, because as we embark on this journey of collaboration, innovation, and progress, we do believe that together, let us forge ahead, confronting adversity with resilience and embracing the promise of prosperity that lies ahead for the Western Cape, but above all, for our entire country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC Tetius. Ladies and gentlemen, please can you help me welcome the host minister for this symposium. This is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure Development, the Honorable Minister Sihle Zikalala.
Thank you. Program Director, Mr. Clement Manyathela, His Excellency, the President Cyril Ramaphosa, ministers from our continent, Mr. John Humphrey, His Majesty Trade Commissioner for Africa from the United Kingdom, ministers and deputy ministers from our country, from South Africa, the premiers who are with us, Premier Nomusa Dubengube, Premier of Free State, who is also with us, and Premier of Gauteng. Senior government officials who are here, all of you colleagues who have been with us from Sunday, from various entities, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered as stakeholders to engage on the state of infrastructure in South Africa and in our continent. We thus convey our warm welcome to all delegates attending this symposium. We hope we will use this platform to outline the progress we have made as the country since the inaugural Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium South Africa in 2020. We extend a word of appreciation to the private sector, which in our case remains the biggest spender in terms of investment as per the gross fixed capital formation, which is standing approximately at 72%, coming from the private sector, while the public sector contributes 28%. The AU Agenda 2063 defines infrastructure as the heart of development and a common trend of integrating the African continent. As we converge, we must emerge with tangible agreements and concrete plans to finance infrastructure as a critical corridor for Africa's development. His Excellency President Ramaphosa launched the South Africa Investment Development Symposium, and he highlighted that infrastructure should be a flywheel of our country's economic recovery. When South Africa started its massive rollout of infrastructure development in 2020, the country focused on accelerating the unlocking of licensing and application process for developers. As a decision was taken to establish Infrastructure South Africa as per the investment plan approved by Cabinet in May 2020. Infrastructure South Africa began working closely with various departments and regulators across government, where we have been able to unlock more than 195 licenses, permits, and approvals within 47 projects alone. The Department of Water and Sanitation, which just about 2 years ago experienced large backlog in their application processes, has since been unlocking most of the strategic integrated projects in less than 90 days. Mr. President, the department and SIDSSA, we are heartened to receive a letter from Mr. Jovan Martin, the head of energy and decarbonization at Sibanye Stillwater, where he said his company has benefited direct from the support provided by Infrastructure South Africa. Mr. Martin said, as I quote, "The company benefited from the direct support provided by Infrastructure South Africa in unlocking numerous regulatory hurdles and barriers that prevent projects from reaching financial close. Notable, the 89 megawatts Kegel wind energy project and the 103 megawatt Winde wind energy project, valued at 2.4 billion and 3.4 billion, received critical support from Infrastructure South Africa," close quote. I believe this needs a big round hand of applause toward Infrastructure South Africa. A similar testimony was shared in this regard from Mlilo Renewable Project, which has planned for the construction of 5,000 megawatts of renewable energy project over the next 5 years. Distinguished guests, South Africa established the Infrastructure Fund to unlock more private sector investment into our infrastructure pipeline using a variety of blended finance tools. Numerous projects have been reviewed by the Infrastructure Fund, with 13 mega blended finance projects approved to date. These are projects that stem from those registered under the Infrastructure South Africa project pipeline. Recently, Human Settlement Minister Mamuluko Kubai launched a multi-million rand social housing project jointly funded through Infrastructure Fund and Social Housing Regulatory Authority, and that project is estimated at around 464 million. Named Goodwood Station Social Housing, it is expected to yield 1,055 units upon completion. Mr. President, I wish to report that to date, the gazetted the National Social Housing Project since 2022 is now estimated at over 1.3 billion. Of the 10 social housing projects gazetted in 2020, 4 projects have been completed. 3 projects are under construction. 1 project is in the procurement phase, while 1 requires assistance on unlocking bulk infrastructure. These projects have contributed in the creation of about 3,100 direct jobs and 8,000 indirect jobs. The Minister of Transport, Honorable Chikunga here, can attest that the transport sector has been one of our best performing sectors under the strategic integrated project, where projects were completed at a cost of approximately 4.3 billion and created 4,700 job opportunities. Among these projects under the transport sector include upgrade of the N1 route from Witbank interchange to Witbank station in Free State, the upgrade of N1 from Ventersdorp to Wolffontein interchange in Free State, the upgrade of N1 section 17 from Ventersdorp to Kronstadt in Free State, upgrade of about 33.7 kilometers of N2 from Umthunzini Toll Plaza and Mpangeni T-Junction in KwaZulu-Natal. Polokwane Eastern Bypass Phase 2 of the N1 improvement in Limpopo. The Western Cape Small Harbour Program Development. The new 4-lane Musina Ring Road in Limpopo. The Musina Ring Road is a design marvel. The route captures various hand visions along the road and a few figures raising from the ground, ultimately having 2 pairs of hands holding up the bridge with a full hand standing next to the road. This symbolism reflects the greater economic trade with Zimbabwe, the SADC, and the rest of Africa in line with regional integration espoused in the AU vision of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Another jewel in the crown can be seen with the N2 Wild Coast Highway, Musikaba Bridge which is being constructed in the Eastern Cape. The approximately 2 billion cable-stayed bridge is under construction and is estimated that it will be completed by the end of this year, with local labor and enterprise benefiting massively from the development of the N2 Wild Coast in Eastern Cape. These projects include the development of the Mtentu Bridge, which is estimated around 1.6 billion, but more importantly, this will reduce the length of travel between Durban and East London, and that is going to contribute in changing even the outlook of the Wild Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gazetted Project Ukuvuselela as a SIP in December 2022. This project is known as the Gauteng Eastern Cape High Corridor Rail for automotive volumes. The high-capacity rail freight line is an expansion of the existing South Core rail infrastructure, which extend from Gauteng to Port Elizabeth in Gqeberha via Free State. The project is estimated around 7 billion, with a number of investors showing keen interest in this project. It is one project that shows that this current administration, when it thinks for the development, it thinks for the development of the whole country and not one area. This project will impact on the development of 3 provinces, Gauteng, Free State Cape, then Eastern Cape. We have, as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we have gazetted the Integrated Renewable Energy and Resource Efficient Program. We invite delegates to visit our stand in the exhibition area. This project has an RFP currently out, which is closing soon, and focuses on solar PV and water efficiency on state buildings. This will alleviate 3,740 megawatts from the national grid by 2050 and boosting the country's GDP by 1.3 billion, and we expect that it will create more than 500,000 jobs over the next 5 years. Distinguished guests, one sector that has been contributing on infrastructure development is that of water and sanitation, led by Minister Mkhunu, who's making significant strides in developing water sector. For an example, 25 billion Olifants River Water Resource Development Project began the construction of the pipeline from Speedcorp Pump Station to Mtotolo with infrastructure fund supporting the unlocking of the additional financing for this project. This is a unique public-private collaboration between the Department of Water and Sanitation as well as the Commercial Users Consortium on the basis of 50-50 funding model. And we must applaud the private sector for taking this responsibility to partner with government. Phase 2A of Mukolo Crocodile River Augmentation Project in Limpopo is designed to augment the water supply in Lipalale area by an additional 75 million liters to enable Eskom power station to meet the environmental demands by April 2025. South Africa recognizes the concern of investor community about the organized crime that lead to extortion, intimidation, and work stoppages at construction sites. Through the intervention of His Excellency President Ramaphosa, government has established specialized units within the Directorate of Priority Crime dedicated to combating organized crime in the construction sector. We also work with stakeholders through infrastructure-built anti-corruption forum in the fight against crime and corruption in the construction sector. We're also strengthening our capacity for social facilitation to manage community expectation and ensure integration of local SMMEs in the construction sector. To date, Mr. President, we're happy to announce that we will be unveiling the construction book, which entails a number of projects that have been implemented since 2022, but we'll continue to also present 12 projects that will be submitted for project preparation in the next financial year. During this symposium, delegates will be appraised of the massive investment opportunities through PPP that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is undertaking to refurbish, maintain its property portfolio, the biggest in the country, to address the accommodation needs of government departments. As we launch this construction book under the leadership of the President, we once again affirm his weight in saying infrastructure development will continue to be a flywheel for the economy of our country, but also contribute in changing the lives of people of the country and the continent. Let us take this opportunity to welcome the President to speak to us this morning. As we introduce the President is known to most of us, almost all of us, both in the country, in the continent, and globally. His Excellency President Ramaphosa has been in the struggle since his youth days as a student, but later as a leader of the workers. He subsequently led the African National Congress and is the one of those who played a critical and leading role in the negotiations for the transition of this country from the apartheid era to the democratic South Africa. He led the process of drafting the current constitution, which is said to be the progressive constitution in the world. Let us welcome the President as he will be addressing us today. Let's all stand up, welcome His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa to speak to us this morning.
Thank you. Let's all be seated, please. Program Director, Minister Sihle Zikalala, our host of this symposium, ministers from various countries on our continent, I welcome you all and would like to thank you for being present at this most important occasion. Ministers of government in South Africa and deputy ministers, the premiers who are here present, MECs, business leaders who are also here present, sponsors of this wonderful symposium, delegates and all the distinguished guests who are here, and ladies and gentlemen. Listening to the program director, Mr. Manyatela, MEC Tertius, and Minister Zikalala, you have all, the three of you, just about wrapped up what I need to say. So what do you need me here for? I could just wave and go home. You have, from the program director through to you, MEC Tertius, and you, Minister Zikalala, covered a great deal in terms of what we are here about. And let me thank you once again for Minister Zikalala for making this symposium process so much more engaging and exciting. I heard from the Deputy President yesterday that he was at a dinner. I called him last night, and he said, I've just come back from the most wonderful dinner with Mr. Zikalala. So you leave me out of these things. So it's wonderful that you make it so engaging and involving, and that the discussions carry on formally and informally. So this indeed just adds to the importance of this whole occasion. It does give me a great pleasure to have this opportunity to speak here, because this is, as I said, a valuable platform to enable all of us to have an introspective look at the opportunities that we all have. And thank you once again, Minister, for giving not only a glowing account and talking about the prospects of investing in infrastructure, but also giving what I would call a SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths that there are, the weaknesses, because there are a number of weaknesses that we need to address, but there are also opportunities, but also talking very honestly and directly about the threats, the risks that prevail, but also coming up with some solutions on how some of these risks can be addressed or mitigated. Investment in infrastructure, as all of us would know, is central to the achievement of our development goals. We are a developing country, and therefore we have identified infrastructure as one of those areas that will, as the Minister said, become a flywheel of generating growth in our economy. It is an enormous economic multiplier, and it provides a number of dividends for an economy long after the infrastructure has been built, provided, of course, we do maintain the infrastructure, because there is quite often a tendency or a culture. We set up wonderful infrastructure facilities and don't maintain them thereafter, and they soon and later fall into disrepair. So this symposium is an important part of our effort to close the infrastructure spending gap in our country, because one of the challenges that we faced soon after our administration started was the spending gap, the financing gap that existed. And when we initiated this symposia, we were seeking to bring the great minds from government and private sector to participate in finding solutions for, amongst other things, the funding of infrastructure. So if we are able to do that, we will be able to solve a major problem, because it is estimated that to achieve our infrastructure goals, we need almost 4.8 trillion rand to address the challenges that we face as a country. And we need that from both the public sector and from the private sector to a much larger extent. And that is why many of you are here, because the people with the money are here. It reminds me of a judge who kept seeing this person appearing before him in a number of cases, and he was accused of robbing banks. And the judge said to this fellow, he says, "But why do you like robbing banks so much?" And he replied, "Your worship, because that is where the money is." So this is where the money is, and that's why you are here. You are not here to be robbed. You are here to participate in this incredible opportunity of investing in infrastructure alongside government. A number of bold initiatives are being implemented to deliver infrastructure at required scale and at a required pace as well. And we are working as an administration and as a government on the reforms to develop sustainable infrastructure. When we came into office, we found that a great deal of achievements have been made in building infrastructure in our country, but in the course of time, a number of impediments had seeped in, and we needed to implement reforms, and we also needed to give confidence to the private sector and lift business confidence and encourage investment. And this is the journey that we have been on. Now, these reforms include the amendment within our own realm of the Division of Revenue Act to enable, for instance, provincial governments to use their infrastructure grants, which they get from national government, and also their budget allocations, to crowd in the private sector finance for large social infrastructure, but also to open up opportunities for the private sector to participate alongside government in economic infrastructure that will be revenue generating. Now, these programs focus specifically on the social infrastructure with regard to health and education and human settlements, which is housing, as you will have heard, as well as other real economic infrastructure in relation to water, which have a social impact. Among other things, this would enable government to diversify infrastructure financing through innovative solutions. Ever since our administration started, one of the issues I've been raising is, let us find innovative, new, creative solutions of funding infrastructure. And we've now embarked on a number of reforms. The amendment, for instance, to the public-private partnership regulations, which have recently been published, where we would like as many people as possible to comment, are part of the broader reforms to mobilize and pool public and private sector resources for infrastructure. So what we are seeking to do, and this symposium should go to a great deal of lengths to contribute to that, is meant to come up with fresh ideas, new ideas, and more implementable ideas of how we can fund infrastructure. What we are doing is to set up the framework, and we now need people with great minds like the ones seated here to be able to help us to operationalize a number of initiatives that we've got in place. For instance, we set up the infrastructure fund, and since we've done so, we have seen a steady growth in the portfolio of blended finance projects that use relatively small fiscal allocations to de-risk public infrastructure projects and raise finance in debt capital markets. One of the areas we have not really been mining and exploiting greatly is the debt capital markets, and to find a much more practical and beneficial, mutually beneficial way in which all these can function. Through the work that has been done in transforming the infrastructure landscape in our country, the total value of our country's strategic integrated projects has grown from about 340 billion rand in July of 2020 to 540 billion rand now. Now, 18 projects valued at a number of billions of rands have been completed, covering areas that are important, such as human settlements, housing that is, and in housing we're looking at social housing as well, which is a very important area, and a number of the three speakers who spoke about that. The road infrastructure in our country, water infrastructure as well. As a water-scarce country, it has been important for us to focus on water infrastructure. One of the things that one can speak so well about what we have done in this current administration is to have a much better understanding of the water infrastructure in our country as a whole, how every river flows, how every dam is able to store water, and the more other projects that are needed to be implemented to increase the water availability in our country. Now, the value of projects currently in construction in these areas is quite massive. It has grown from a minuscule amount of money to about 230 billion rand. Now, projects worth nearly 170 billion are currently in procurement, where we have now moved beyond conceptualization to now procuring and getting the construction industry to bid for those projects. It is significant that blended finance projects which leverage private sector financing are also growing steadily. Now, this had tapered down over the years, and we're now seeing a great deal of interest. And this also shows the confidence that the private sector, notwithstanding what the doomsayers say about the investability of South Africa, because they often talk about doomsday and say that things are falling apart. But when you look at the book, the real investment book, and the projects that are underway, you actually see a great deal of interest and confidence that is being invested in the country. In this calendar, 11 projects with a total investment value of 45 billion are expected to reach financial close. Now, reaching financial close has been one of those challenges, as all of you would know, because it's very easy to conceptualize a project and say we want to build the biggest dam in the world, but it is the crunch of closing the project financially that matters most. One of the areas that we have focused on is the unblocking of multiple government authorization permits, licenses, and exemptions. Now, this has been a recurring challenge, which we have focused on our reform journey. We realized that there were blockages, there were delays, and there were a whole number of horrible things that were happening. And I've often said that For instance, it would take people or companies and people 3 years just to get a water license, just a mere water license to be able to develop the country economically. And now we have reduced that, getting permits. We're cleaning all the cobwebs to enable the permit granting system to work in tandem with our economic goals and ambitions. Now, to date, Infrastructure South Africa has unblocked a total of 25 billion worth of projects in the renewable energy space using the Infrastructure Development Act to fast-track government authorizations. And there's much more work that needs to be done. But the important thing is that our reforms are beginning to bear fruit. Our reforms are unblocking and unlocking a great deal of investment. And this is where I would say the tire hits the tar, because this is what matters most. Now, among the strategic integrated projects, the energy portfolio has the biggest project pipeline, largely because of the energy challenges that we are facing, but also because we've had to build more energy assets. For instance, our transmission lines. Coming from an apartheid governed country which restricted energy availability to just a few people who lived in this country, largely white people. This government and the previous government, the administrations, have made it their task to extend access to electricity, and that has given rise to a need to broaden the assets or the facilities in regard to transmission. And now, as our energy availability is under pressure, we've had to rely on renewable energy processes, which we are now doing, and also on green energy. Now, the project pipeline comprises more than 100 projects amounting to 240 billion just in the energy space. And our country is positioning itself to be a leader in green energy, working towards a sustainable future driven by innovation. And we see this green energy or clean energy beginning to bring about new industries that are driven by technology and innovation, a space that we are driving our country into. The green energy program, estimated at 300 billion and comprised of the 14 projects, is an important part of our country's just transition. Now, major water infrastructure projects are also underway. As I said, water is a major challenge in our country's architecture, and the projects that are under construction in several parts of the country are expanding our capacity with regard to water availability in our country in relation to dams and bulk water infrastructure as well. The other area which Minister Zikalala also spoke about is in the transport sector. And this is one of our best performing portfolios in our strategic integrated project pipeline, with 6 projects worth 25 billion rand completed to date, and a further 5 projects that are currently under construction. And he also mentioned these wonderful bridges that are going to be some of the best on our continent. Now, human settlements, the accommodation of our people, is another important area, and to date, we've created 38,000 direct jobs, as you heard, and a number of housing units that are now under construction. And this is being done under a very good foundation that we have built over the past 30 years. Over the past 30 years, this government has ensured that 4.7 million households get housing. And this is an incredible feat, better than none that I can think of, because this clearly shows in a very direct and physical way that this is a government that is focused on improving the lives of its people. To build 4.7 million houses for our people is actually a great achievement. Now, the key to developing a bankable and viable project pipeline is what all of you would know is project preparation. As I said, you can conceptualize a project, but it is the preparatory portion or part that plays a key role. Now, projects being taken to procurement without the requisite readiness often lead to cost and time overruns during implementation, because it is very tempting to conceptualize a program, or a project rather, and want to rush to procurement. And without due and careful preparation, many of these often run into time overruns as well as a great deal of money being overspent. We have made bold and decisive interventions to provide a predictable way in which preparation can be done, including the funding regime for project preparation, and to consolidate expertise in developing bankable projects through our own infrastructure development agency, Infrastructure South Africa. Now, for the longest time, many in our country kept complaining that we are not seeing the cranes, we're not seeing the yellow equipment all over the country. And without saying this was deliberate, it was important to prepare properly for each project so that when the projects commence, we're then able to have them functioning extremely well. Minister Zikalala has also referred to the criminal element that also seeped into projects, where you had the construction mafia coming in and overtaking and hijacking projects or stopping them. Now, the process we've been involved in is to actually do the proper preparation, from bringing in, for instance, a specialized police unit that is dealing with this matter, but at the same time, to also deal with the other community aspect, which has often been disregarded whenever projects are embarked upon. For projects often happen where people live. They don't happen in space. And unless those who are involved in projects pay due attention to what happens in a community and how a project will be received and seen in the community, we are doomed to fail. And this process and this time that we've gone through, as Minister Zikalala was saying, has been involved in ensuring that there will be proper facilitation so that we have a good framework, a good method in which to pay attention to serious matters like this. Now, Infrastructure South Africa is reorienting project preparation to promote growth and enable a number of other great dividends that can flow from this. For instance, the manufacturing, green economy, and involving small and medium enterprise businesses in the area to be part of the projects that are embarked upon. Because that, in many ways, is the insurance policy that gives us the greater chance of success of our projects. Now, what I'm saying is not unique to South Africa. I've heard that it happens in many other countries, because communities around the world want to be involved in anything that is meant to benefit them. And they are correctly saying, nothing about us without us. And therefore, we need to involve communities and be very careful in ensuring that it happens. Years ago, I met a person who's involved in the built environment, who embarked on the most wonderful project that finally won the best project in the world with Habitat, the UN agency Habitat. And I said, what was the real thing that made you succeed with this project? He said, it was spending a great deal of time consulting with people who were affected. And he said, we held 1,500 meetings. And he studiously went through all those meetings. And he said, once that had happened, our project was a flyer. It was embraced by everyone, and everyone wanted to be a part of it. And that is why the United Nations agency also recognized this. So Invest South Africa has really come to a wonderful conclusion of saying that we do need proper project preparation. And we can never think that we are wasting time, effort, and energy. Project preparation from a technical point of view, from a finance point of view, from a community point of view, and getting rid of all the risks and attending to all the threats that could stop the project or delay it. Now, it is focusing on projects that contribute to job creation, both during construction and during the operations as well. It is promoting economic competitiveness through projects that help integrate South Africa also into the global supply chain, particularly focusing on some of the facilities that we have. Infrastructure South Africa is also preparing projects in a manner that contributes to inclusivity by broadening the participation of local content. This is another important area that our administration is focusing on, that we need more and more local content. And local content, the bringing in of locally made, if you like, implements that have to do with projects, leads to economic growth, to job creation, and it is through this that we are able to also bring in a great deal of dynamism in the building of projects, because we should now know that the implements that go into building up these projects can be found locally, and we can promote the growth and the establishment of a number of industries. This approach is being applied to what we've identified as the 12 priority infrastructure projects with a cumulative project value of more than 180 billion rand. It is anticipated that more than 400,000 jobs, both direct and indirect, would be created during construction and operation of projects if we are able to utilize all this type of wisdom that we've come about. And that is something that is really applauded and commendable in the way that we are now approaching infrastructure. If there's anything that you could applaud, even if you're lazy this morning, this is what it is. Now, the top 12 priority infrastructure projects are aimed at leveraging technical and financial expertise of development finance institutions and multilateral development banks to increase the capacity of the state. Now, I'm really pleased that there are quite a number of delegates here who come from those institutions. Now, we have a number of those priority projects, and they are spread throughout the country. As Minister Zikalala was also saying, we're not focusing on certain parts of the country only. Our country, with its 9 provinces, has a number of infrastructure needs. And at the national level, as we look at all these projects and plan for them, we look at developing the country as a whole and not just one. So the priority projects include in Limpopo, Fetaho Mutubati, in the Northern Cape, in KZN, as well the special economic zones that we are putting up. All those are aimed for project preparation and support at this time. 4 of the top priority projects support the planned investment also in rail and ports to alleviate the freight congestion, to shift transportation of goods from roads to rail, and to boost exports through improved access. Now, one of the challenges that we've been facing, and this has been building up over a number of years, and hence the reforms that we have embarked upon, is in our logistics area, our rail and the ports, and gladly we have brought the private sector, including labor, to be part of this whole process, and we've now got a roadmap on how to address the weakness that has seeped into a very important artery of our economy, which is logistics. There are priority projects for project preparation in energy security and the green economy, such as the Eskom's gas project, as well as the pumped hydro storage projects in Limpopo and specialized economic zones. Now, water infrastructure projects have traditionally been financed largely through the fiscus. Now, through the preparations that are going on with regard to a number of water projects, the bulk supply we are bringing in the private sector, and Infrastructure South Africa is aiming to leverage the private sector involvement in financing and delivery of a number of these projects. Now, health and education projects are also very important, and they are included in the 12 priority projects. And they are aimed at also addressing the funding challenge and gap that I was talking about earlier. And with this, we're then able to enhance the integrated planning and proper procurement processes that are important in this. And we are working to rebuild the construction industry and ensure that it is able to deliver projects on time and within budget, and also to the right quality. The construction industry has been facing enormous challenges, but it is also an industry that has also seen a great deal of transformation. Construction industry in our country was largely the terrain of the previously advantaged people in our country. And now a number of those who were previously disadvantaged have come into the construction industry, and they are playing a very important role. But there was a time when things dipped down, and we are now very actively, as government, playing a role in bolstering the construction industry, including addressing all these challenges of the construction stoppages that I was talking about. With well over 1.2 million people employed in the industry, there needs to be a constant, reliable pipeline of projects that enables the sector and its supply industry to plan ahead. Because as we know, construction projects require a lot of planning and preparation. Infrastructure South Africa is today publishing, as you've already heard, from both the program director, who is so well informed, as well as the minister, about the construction book that they have both been talking and boasting about, which is wonderful. So that showcases a number of infrastructure projects, and that just shows the depth of organization, the depth of detailing exactly infrastructure importance in our country. And as you will see with the construction book, it actually tells a very good story about where we are as a country and what we've done, and where we want to go to. And the book includes a number of other projects where the state-owned enterprises also participate in. Now, the projects showcased in the book will contribute to greater economic growth, and of course, this will happen with the participation of the private sector. And this is where the partnership between the public sector and the private sector is solidified in a very visible way, where we both can see, touch, feel the projects that are set out in the construction book. And the book is the first of its kind in South Africa, and it demonstrates our government's ambition to drive economic development through the construction sector and deliver high-quality infrastructure projects that create value in the economy and society. More than anything else, this book, as I say, is demonstrable evidence. It answers the question of those doomsayers and those who've been very doubtful about our focus on infrastructure. And out of this, and as you read this construction book, you should start seeing the cranes going up, the yellow equipment flying around. And if you are as imaginative, now, if you are as imaginative as you were when you were young, when you longed to play with those toys, integration, but despite this, progress on implementing regional and continent-wide infrastructure has been slow. But I do believe that across the continent, we're now beginning to see greater focus on infrastructure. Compared to other regions of the world, sub-Saharan Africa has the longest export times, the highest export costs, and onerous border compliance requirements. And this is given rise to by the lack of logistics infrastructure that we do need to gear up to higher levels. Now, transport costs also in our own SADC region are among the highest in the world, with border posts imposing significant costs and time delays. And this is another area that needs to be addressed so that the development of our economies can be at a higher level. We therefore welcome the inaugural Leaders Forum meeting convened by the Minister yesterday. And that is why we're so grateful to have a number of ministers from other parts of our continent. We hope that it will bring fresh momentum and impetus to regional and continent-wide projects, and also help to institutionalize platforms of engagement and lead to a sharing of resources, of knowledge for for project preparation, execution, finance, and private sector participation. We must be resolute as we work to progress the projects that we've identified from financial close to implementation. And we must continue our efforts to create the right environment to develop better infrastructure. Much of this I spoke about earlier as well as on the issue of involving everyone. And we must improve the delivery of the catalytic infrastructure projects that connect our countries and our regions. Now, with the advent of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we are going to rely on more efficient infrastructure, roads, ports, as well as air, in terms of being able to transport the goods that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is beckoning on us to embark on. Since it was first held in 2020, the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium has been in many ways an essential part of the growth and infrastructure investment in our country. It has contributed a great deal, so you are participating in a platform that has really generated not only interest, but also has generated a great deal of focus when it comes to infrastructure. Now, as we reflect on the great progress that has been made, and there has been great progress, we look ahead to even better prospects for growth and development in our economy, utilizing infrastructure, as I often say, as the flywheel that is going to drive the economic growth that we need. We have done much over the last few years, and through this symposium, we are, in my view, continuing to strengthen the foundation to do much more. So I commend you for being here, and I want to thank you for participating once again in this symposium, because it is an important intervention that you are making. So bring your wisdom, bring the best of your creative ideas, so that we can together work to develop our country. If you are in the private sector, this is where you can make money. If you are in the public sector, this is where you can foster development. If you are an academic participating here, this is where you can showcase your intellectual prowess. So everybody has an opportunity to shine. So come and put your ideas forward. We thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa, and thank you for emphasizing how important project preparation is, not only from a technical point of view, the financial point of view, from a community point of view, to avoid those delays in the projects. And I think that's where Infrastructure South Africa comes in, because they oversee project preparation. That's part of the work that they do to ensure that there are credible and market-ready infrastructure projects. And that is why this morning, Mr. President, we are launching 12 infrastructure projects for project preparation for the 2024-2025 financial year. This is a pipeline of projects that are going to receive project preparation, but also a lot of support from Infrastructure South Africa so that they're ready for the market. So please, let's look at the screens for the 12 projects. Those are the 12 infrastructure priority projects for project preparation for the year 2024-2025. Now, the President and the Minister, Sihle Zikalala, spoke about this construction book that we are launching this morning. This is a collection of all of these infrastructure projects that are going into procurement in the 2024-2025 financial year. So this construction book is actually the first publication in the country with the primary purpose of providing the infrastructure projects that are expected for market in the 2024-2025 fiscal year for stakeholders and industry sectors. The projects included showing a forward-looking plan of projects provided by government entities and state-owned companies that will be procured in the new fiscal year. This publication includes over 150 projects with a significant capital budget of about 158 billion rand. So the projects featured include projects within the network sectors, which are expected to produce significant impact on the economy. That's going to result in job creation, job opportunities, and just other benefits, several benefits for the country. And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, when you look at the road projects, for instance, we are looking at about 123 projects. That's going to be valued at over 60 billion rand. In terms of rail projects, we are looking at the value of over 10 billion rand in the projects in the rail sector. In the ports, we've got several projects that are valued at over 9.8 billion rand. Airports projects as well, several of them on the pipeline valued at over 7.8 billion rand. I would like to take this opportunity now to invite the President and the Minister, Sihle Zikalala, just to come on the stage to shake the hands of those who have contributed to the book. I'm going to ask all of those who contributed to this construction book that we are launching this morning to please come. You don't have to get on stage. If you can already start making your way, just come to the front here so that the President can shake your hand, appreciate you, and then we're going to have a signing ceremony afterwards. Can we have all of you please come to the front? I'm going to request, please, the Sandal CEO, Reginald Demana, to also come and join us on stage. TCTA CEO, Pesi Chemani, to also join us. AXA CEO, Mpumi Mpofu, please also join us on stage. Makhali's Waterboard CEO, Sandile Mkize, Eskom Group Executive for Transmission, Mr. Sehomucho Skiepas, please also join us on stage. Can we also please have the Transnet Chief Strategy and Planning Officer, Dr. Andre Shaw. I'm going to request that we also bring in the Head of Infrastructure South Africa, Mametsi Masemola, to also join us on stage. Yeah, please come up and then just shake the hands of the President, the Minister, and our guests there. These are the people that have contributed to this construction book that we are launching this morning. Remember, this book will be published on www.infrastructuresa.org.za. You can also find it on www.sidsssa.org.za. I know that there are a few hard copies as well that will be made available at the Infrastructure SA Exhibition Center. So if you need those hard copies, you can get them there. Wonderful. The president and the minister will then sit down, and then we're going to have a signing ceremony on my far right. They'll be signing a commitment to deliver on this project, Mr. President, so we can hold them accountable. All right, now while that signing ceremony continues, I'd like us to please stand as the president leaves the room. All right, thank you very much. We are going to have some fireside chats by the foyer. These are just quick, informative sessions on a number of issues. We'll have one on leading a sustainable cannabis production. We'll have another one on the special economic zones, on the National Special Development Framework. And after that, we will break for lunch, which will then be followed by the ministerial panel discussions. Thank you very much.